this more just kind of generally speaking, Jeff. But I mean, how does your approach to your team and the way that you instruct them? How much, if at all, does it change coming off a win as opposed to a loss, or does it depend on maybe the flow or the rhythm of a season and where y'all are?
I mean, I'd like to think that I'm pretty consistent with the message and what we're, like my approach with our team. It's always trying to get better, trying to improve, trying to help them get better, trying to help them see and understand things a little bit better. When we lose, it's more of, okay, why did we lose? What are the things that we didn't do well? What are the things that we didn't do consistently? How did we do this? When we win, it's trying to highlight, okay, here are the really good things that we did. This is why we did this. This is why we were able to win, or this is what we saw while we were doing it. Also pointing out the negatives in that. So it's always the same message. Certainly the mood is different, when you win and you lose. For me, it's. Look, I hate losing. I hate it. I hate it. I despise it. I don't like the feeling of it. I take them hard, and it's hard for me to move on. I understand that you have to. But kids today are different. It's a very, very different time because stuff doesn't occupy their mind very long. They're able to move on extremely quickly, and at times that can be frustrating. But that's just the way that it is, and so got to move on to the next play.
Are there good bad things that can come with that though? With that short memory, where maybe they don't dwell on a loss too much, or maybe feel it too much, but on that same hand, where it's able not to bog them down too much.
Yeah, I mean, there probably is. Look, I don't believe in like one way. I don't, and I've evolved, to that point. I don't ever want to be one of these coaches that's constantly, well, this is what I did when I played or back in my day. I don't want to be that. Things are different, so I do think there's some good with it. Some of it I may not understand. It may not be kind of my way. Um, but I do think there is probably good and bad with that.
I fear you'd probably adapt to it, but I was curious, and this is obviously it's obviously just a hypothetical, but if you were to drop a 27-year-old Jeff Capel or a 33 or 34-year-old Jeff Capel into college basketball right now, how do you think you'd do, and how long do you think it'd take you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Certainly, the 27-year-old probably wouldn't survive because it was such a different time for me. I had all, at that time, I heard everything. And so when I got that job at 27 at VCU, all I heard was, you don't deserve it. How did this happen? This has to be a joke. And so I was hell bent on proving like this is not a joke. I have to be successful. I have to be. And down in the Richmond area and certainly at VCU, there's a famous thing that I still think they talk about because I get emails about it from some people that I know there still. We were playing for first place. It was at the end of the first time through the conference. We were actually playing Brad Brownell's team at Wilmington, and we played Wilmington at home on a noon game at noon, and we were horrible. We were, and it was embarrassing, and we got our butts kicked. And I went into the press conference, and I talked about how it looked like that I had gotten up that morning and got in the van and just drove around Richmond and picked up some guys and let's just go play. And so I'm not that anymore. um, I'd like to think that I've grown, but my feeling about losing hasn't changed. I just may show it differently or not show it, the way that maybe I used to. But I think that's because kids are different. There weren't as many distractions back then. After a game is over with, you don't have 13. Back then, you didn't have 13, 14 guys grabbing their phones. And they can look at different things on their phones, and immediately their mind is off the game. So I do think there was a little bit more time back then where young people did dwell on stuff more because there wasn't anything to distract them or to take their mind off of it. I think that's what's change so much stuff right now, and I think that's why these kids' attention spans and their memories are very, very short.
Georgia Tech has
Talk about Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech has a couple outstanding guards. When your guys start watching film on these guys, do their eyes get a little wider when they see opposing stars that they might get matched up with?
Yeah, I think they're a really good team. I think they're a lot better than their record. They're older. They have experience. They have really, really good size. They play a funky zone that can be difficult to attack. Alvarado and DeVoe, the two guys you're talking about, are playing extremely well. DeVoe just getting back from an injury. Alvarado, over his last 5 games, has been incredible. He's about 19 points a game over the last 5, 47% from the field, close to 40 from the three-point line. And, he plays with such charisma. And he plays with a great spirit. And DeVoe is, they really complement each other because DeVoe is kind of quiet and seems laid back, where Alvarado is not quiet and and demonstrative and things like that. DeVoe is smooth. He's one of the top 10 scorers in our league. It's hard to speed him up. But then I think the guy that's really made as big a jump as anyone in our league is Moses Wright. I mean, I think he's played really, really well and has really improved. Banks inside is really good. And so, again, I think they have talent. They have older talent, guys that have been together. They've been through stuff. And so it'll be a great challenge for us. And I think we're excited to play.
Comparisons can be tricky sometimes, but how would their backcourt stack up, or how do you think it stacks up compared to others in the league?
I think they're one of the better backcourts. I really and truly do. Number one, they're older, especially Alvarado. He's a senior. He's been through the wars that this league gives you. He's really grown. He's worked on his game. He had a horrific injury 2 years ago that he was able to recover from and come back even stronger. And then DeVoe is smooth. I mean, he can shoot it. He's got great pace. He's mid-range. He can finish at the basket. And so I would rank him up there against anyone in our league. I think they're as good, maybe better than a lot of the backcourts in our league.
What do you think it is about their, you would describe theirs as kind of funky. What is it that they do there that makes it difficult?
Most people play a traditional 2-3. Even Syracuse it's not traditional, but, theirs is like you're constantly moving. I think they try to confuse you. It looks like it's a matchup at times. It can look like a 1-3-1 at times. They're constantly moving to what the offense, is doing. And, if you're a team that's not smart, it can confuse you, and you're hesitant. I think anytime defenses can get you to be hesitant, I think that's one thing. And then sometimes you can have defenses that can just overwhelm you, that can take you out of whatever. That's Florida State. They just are overwhelming with their length and athleticism. Their zone has athleticism. It has great length, especially in the back. I think they're the leading shot blocking team in our league. And so Banks and Wright, those two guys really man it up down there. And it's just different. That's what makes it fun. It's different from what, you see normally from a zone.
Going back to when you were talking about Alvarado and DeVoe, you kind of pulled a couple numbers out there, 19 points per game, 47% shooting or whatever. How do you, before you come in here, do you have those numbers written down? Do you refresh yourself, or do those kind of stick in your head?
Those stick. I mean, that's, as I start to study the opponent, which is after the last game, that's one of the things I look at first before I watch them. I just look at stats and look and see. And, I want to know, cumulative conference stats. I try to look at last 4 game stats. I want that to see maybe who's hot 4 or 5 games, see who's hot, who's played well recently, is someone on an uptick, and things like that. So I just kind of study it. I don't write it down. I study it.
Speaking of stats, Jeff, you had talked after the Notre Dame game about the shooting splits in your all's road games when you compare the first half to the second half. You were definitely right on those. It's pretty drastic.
It's drastic.
What do you think can cause a team, especially a younger one, to struggle a little bit more on the road? Is it just being away from home and kind of being being in front of a road crowd or being thrown out of a routine a little bit?
You know, it's weird. I don't know. And we obviously have not done a good job with that because that's been consistent all year. Even if you go back to Robert Morris and you look at the first half compared to the second, um, I'm not really sure. I mean, we have to figure it out because we have, what, 3 road games left, I think. And so we have to figure something out because it's incredibly drastic. You know, in the second half, our offense is in front of us, so maybe we're able to help them out a little bit more. But we have these lulls. Against Notre Dame, it was that way. We started out struggled, but then we played pretty well, and we had a 6-point lead, and then we went through, I think, a 4 minutes or so stretch where we didn't score. And during that stretch, I think there were 4 turnovers and 5 possessions. And no disrespect to Notre Dame's defense, but they were unforced. I mean, it was 2 travels. It was a shot that was, to me, it was a turnover. Sometimes it can be we're trying to go a little bit too fast. Guys want to, it's coming from a great place, but we have to figure that out. I wish I knew the answer, but we have to figure it out.
When you go through one of those stretches and maybe you have a timeout, what do you tell your guys to calm them down, get them back to playing their game?
Just, we try to talk about relaxing. Got to take good shots. We got to execute. Take your shot with confidence when you have it. Be decisive, in your move or your shot or whatever it is we're doing.
Is there any update on Onye's injury?
Onye's out. It's a sprain. He will not be available to play. He's still on crutches, and there's nothing structurally wrong with it. But it's just a sprain, so he'll be out for a little bit.
Are y'all expecting to have Murph tomorrow?
Well, it'll be more of a game time decision. We'll see after some tests and thing today, this evening. We'll see if he'll be able to go.